Now, folks, if you'll just gather around a little closer now. Come right in a little closer. That's it. That's fine, folks.
All right, let's go, because you know what I came in to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
So, Showtime do have a foot in the YouTuber business with Jake Paul, who takes on Anderson Silva. You have to wonder why they ain't broadcasting this Mayweather-Deji fight. It's on DAZN. Now, the question is this just a one-off thing for Mayweather, or could it be a more permanent thing on DAZN? Because from what it looks like, he's not planning to stop the exhibitions at no time soon. See, I'm hearing Wilder talk. He keeps mentioning AJ, and he seems like he wants the AJ fight. So, if that were to happen, where's it going to be? I mean, AJ fights on DAZN. He knows this. He can't be thinking, you got to come over this side of the street. Is Wilder going to go over to DAZN to make that happen? Because he's already dismissed fighting Andy Ruiz. Malik Scott said, no Andy Ruiz, no Frank Sanchez. They want Joshua. They want Alexander Usyk, which in theory could go on Showtime because he's out of contract with Eddie Hearn. He's a free agent. Could go on Showtime. What does Showtime do if they can't get Wilder to fight either Frank Sanchez or, more importantly, Andy Ruiz? Because Deontay Wilder and the Tyson Fury fights have been the most lucrative thing they've had in terms of big boxing fights. What do they do with Andy Ruiz and Frank Sanchez? They're top heavyweights. If Wilder's not going to fight them, what do they do? What can they do? Floyd is all about the money, and he knows where the money is. He knows that YouTuber market is going to rake it in for him. I hear the fight's going to take place in the Middle East.
The zone is too small. PBC would never be seen fighting on the app, according to Leonard Smellerby, Errol Spence, and Jermell Charlo. But Floyd is doing it in November?
Reaper Gang Radio, link in the description box, go sub them. And now the biggest draw in sporting history is now on DAZN. Exhibition or not. Yo, I tell you what, it's going to go from nobody watches DAZN to a lot of PBC fighters and fan base either deserting the sport because they're so dead set against their fighters being on the app, or they're just going to have to conform that this is the way forward unless something dramatically changes at Showtime, because Paramount is considering putting Showtime on an app. And will Showtime Boxing be on the app because they're downsizing operations?
Paramount CEO Bob Bakish confirmed last month that these talks were happening as the company looks toward the future. Cord cutting obviously accelerating. Showtime lost about 500,000 subscribers in Q1. 500,000 subscribers in Q1.
The PBC fighters in 2018 were saying a lot of shit about DAZN. They were saying a lot of shit. Now Mayweather's just hopped over there like a mercenary after telling the world that they're not going to work with no outsiders. And he just ran across to the other side of the street. What does Steven Espinoza think about that? What does Leonard Ellaby think? I wonder what he's thinking right now. Michael Benson, June the 4th, 2021. Floyd Mayweather on Canelo's win over Billy Joe Saunders. I didn't even see it. He fight on an app now, right? Real fighters fight on Showtime. So, as we move on past Conorgate, Zelfa Barrett, Brown Flesh, nephew of Black Flesh, Pat Barrett, one of the hardest hitting British boxers from back in the dizzy. He takes on Savgatson RAKHIMOV for the vacant IBF super featherweight title. This was Joe Cordina's title up to a few weeks ago before the hand injury, which cancelled his fight against RAKHIMOV. This would have been Joe's first defense of the title.
First defense of the title from a rival is homicidal.
First defense of the belt. But Zelfa is going in to replace Joe. He's coming off an excellent European title win against Karbonov, where he boxed a masterpiece. That was around June of this year. He takes on the number one ranked super featherweight RAKHIMOV, who was Joe Cordina's mandatory. RAKHIMOV is 16-0-1 with 13 knockouts. Be under no illusion, right? I want Zelfa to win, but Pat must get this guy in peak physical condition, physically and mentally, because RAKHIMOV is going to bring it. This is a tough fight. But Barrett has been doing the right things. He won an eliminator against Bruno Tarimo late last year and then won the European title. So all the right steps are being taken for this type of task. And this is how you prepare for these type of tasks. He can't be in no better position to take this belt right now in terms of preparation. Time flies. I remember when I was calling Zelfa a prospect, but he's a 29-year-old man now. And he hasn't been given no easy touches by Eddie. The winner will have to take a mandatory against Joe Cordina. And I'm rooting for Barrett, man. I'm rooting for him. Tough arcs, though. Galal Yafai, whose contest was cancelled last week. Was it last week, Conor Gate? Yeah, it was, I believe, right? He'll take on Gohan Rodriguez Garcia. That fight is being rescheduled from the Chris Eubank and Conor card that was cancelled last week. So he'll be on that card there. Cal Yafai also returns for the first time since 2020, where he lost to Roman Gonzalez and was really comprehensively beaten. Campbell Hatton, he'll be on the card as well. And this will be Campbell Hatton's 4th fight of this year, actually. So he's keeping himself nice and busy. And obviously, the main event is Dimitri Bivol versus ZURDO Ramirez, to take place in the United Arab Emirates on November the 5th. It's not pay-per-view, it's live to the subscribers on Dazn, excluding South Korea and MENA. Yo, it's a very big card. For subscription-based boxing right now with Showtime on the slide, you're not going to get much better value than this. The main event pits the very aggressive ZURDO against the skilled Dimitri Bivol, coming off one of the best recent results in modern-day boxing, outpointing Canelo Alvarez, maintaining his WBA title. I'm standing my ground. If you're talking subscription-based boxing, with some of the pay-per-views that have been put on in recent months, you could make an argument that Bivol should be pay-per-view himself after beating Canelo. Taking on an aggressive puncher like ZURDO, who could possibly be 200 pounds when he gets in the ring. A heavyweight, not a cruiser, a heavyweight. He himself is a former champion at 168, unbeaten. But no, it's subscription-based content. Now they're talking about what's next for Chris Eubank after the Conor Benn fight fell through. Now, forget Cannon Smith. I don't see how he was a front runner if Eubank's fighting at 160 and Cannon is fighting at 175. Never saw that happening. But they're talking about Danny Garcia is being considered a prime candidate to swap leather with Eubank. I thought Danny moved up to 154, or is Chris going to fight him at 157 too? That's crazy.
If you're 33 years old, you can't do what you used to do in your mid-20s, which is to lose weight and be able to handle the loss of that weight. To take a man down 3 pounds beneath the middleweight limit, which is 160 pounds, to have him boil down to 157 is literally attempted murder. And they wanted me to be an accomplice to it.
How did Danny Garcia become a front runner? I don't even think he's fought at 154 yet, has he? Chris better not fight nobody at no 157 or anything below 160. His old man's going to totally flip out. 160, 168 is where Chris needs to be. Billy Joe Saunders, potentially, they're talking. Gennady Golovkin, who has 3 straps at 160, is being spoke about. Liam Smith, some good fights there for him though. British Boxing News is not sure if Golovkin will want the Eubank fight after how the last negotiation broke down and Kell Brook stepped in, but we'll see. Depends how much you're going to put on Golovkin's paycheck, in my opinion. So, all contracts signed. 26th of November, the likely date. And we will see Zach Parker and John Ryder squaring off for that WBO interim super middleweight title. And they're saying, inevitably, it will be on BT Sports. It's a good fight. Zach, 22-0, 16 knockouts. Ryder, more experienced, 31 wins, 5 losses, and has won 17 of his 31 wins inside the distance. It was well received on Twitter. Some people saying, yeah, cracking fight. Others said this is going to be some fight. Some people think Parker will win within 7 rounds. Some people have got Ryder by stoppage. It's a very good fight. And it looks like a deal was made before there was a purse bid between Matchroom and Queensbury. And Frank Warren, BT and Queensbury will be broadcasting it. Obviously, Eddie will be hoping that John Ryder can go into enemy territory and bring that WBO interim belt back to Matchroom and Dazn. But we'll see. How the fight plays out, briefly, not going into a long, in-depth study. I see Parker being the more likely to win by stoppage. But I see the more likely result over 12 rounds, John Ryder knows a little too much for him, a little too experienced, a little too savvy. Sometimes Matchroom and Queensbury negotiations can go through smooth, like Bentley versus Phoenix Cash, that was smooth. But from what I'm hearing, this fight here between Parker and Ryder went through easy because George and Eddie have an amicable relationship. I'm not going to say they're best of buddies, but George Warren and Eddie are able to talk to each other and dialogue a little better than Eddie and Frank ever could. And a lot of people are saying that's the one good thing that came out of the Tyson Fury AJ negotiation. Even though we didn't get the fight, we got communication between the main promoters in the UK, which is good. So Eddie Hearn has dismissed any talk of AJ fighting Chris Arreola. He said, sometimes I read stuff like they've made an offer to Arreola. Absolute rubbish. Next thing that's being reported in every newspaper is what he told the Dazn boxing show. He said he hasn't even spoken to Chris Arreola about the fight. He's not saying it's a bad fight. He's just saying he hasn't reached out to Chris. Arreola is currently 38-7-1 and has had 3 cracks at world title shots. Is that true? Yeah, he has. He fought Berman Stavern for the title. He fought Klitschko and Deontay Wilder. But at 41, Eddie Hearn says his best years are behind him. The last time we saw Arreola in a ring, I believe he was being defeated by Andy Ruiz in 2021, in which was a pretty good fight, which saw Ruiz on the canvas. That's something Luis Ortiz couldn't do, is put Andy on the canvas. Arreola is not ranked by any of the 4 major sanctioning bodies, so he wouldn't fit Hearn's description of a top 15 foe. Eddie's talking about getting AJ 2 quick fights against credible top 15 opponents. Hearn said Otto Wallin's name gets thrown about sometimes, and he said Joe Joyce is a good fight, a tough fight. Zhang Shilei, he's been bought up by Eddie Hearn, and that could end up in China, where that fight is worth a fortune. I was going to give examples of my own life here, but no, I prefer not to do that. I don't want people to get a certain image of my life, which I prefer not to be known about. But there does come a point sometimes when you feel everybody swinging on you, that I'm just going to swing back indiscriminately. And I don't care about principles or morals no more. Just swing. Swing on anything that thinks it can fuck with me. And it's not right. Eddie Hearn questioning if Clarissa Shields has been tested. Eddie said Marshall against Shield, is there VADA testing? I'm 99% sure there isn't, because normally VADA will announce on their Twitter page, welcome to the VADA program. That means Clarissa has not been tested for this event, because she will only be tested by UCAD. But UCAD won't be testing her when she's in America. By the way, I'm sure that Clarissa is a clean athlete. Now you see that last line? That's what you call passive aggression. I'm sure she's a clean athlete. But then for the first 4 or 5 lines, he threw shade on her. Here's the thing though, before Eddie said that, Clarissa steamed into the Conor Benn situation and probably didn't know any details about it, but she used it as an opportunity to start swinging at Eddie. She's there talking about it's disgusting how Eddie wanted the fight to go ahead even though Conor popped dirty. Well, he didn't pop dirty. Then she said Eddie doesn't care about the fighters, obviously, about their health and safety. And then you add to that, they've had history where she's actually physically hit Eddie and said a lot of shit about Eddie. Eddie was thinking, nah, that's enough now. Let's see how you like it when I spread false shit about you. Go with my feelings, not facts. Let's see how you like it. And she didn't like it. Clarissa said, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, Eddie Hearn, but me and Marshall have been getting randomly drug tested for the past 3.5 to 4 months up to this fight by VADA. Don't get mad because you wanted a fighter to risk their life against your fighter for a payday. Loser. Then she says, keep the Guelt name out of your mouth. But she didn't keep Eddie's name out of her mouth. It was her who started it. She could have said, I don't want to talk about this. Tyson Fury, when he was asked about the Conor Benn situation, he said, I don't talk about other people's business. And we know why he's doing that. But she could have did that. And now, you see, this is what I'm saying. Sky have done the same thing, even though they were part of the cover-up in the Oscar Rivas-Dillian White fight when Eddie was at Sky. Eddie has done nothing that Sky have not done. And Johnny Nelson has been in the front line running his mouth. So Eddie is just indiscriminately swinging right now. Fuck morals, fuck principles. You're going to shade my fighter for an adverse finding, which ain't a dirty test. Well, let me start swinging the fuck back. And people don't like it. They don't like that. When the guy you've been fucking with, you fuck with him because you thought, oh, well, he's not going to swing back, is he? He's not going to swing back because he was a rich kid who was given everything. Oh, he's very smiley and accessible. So he's not a violent threat. I swing on him. Oh, his dad gave him everything. And so did Dazn. That's why John Fury keeps offering to fight him. I'm going to swing on him. And there has been a conspiracy against Eddie Hearn. We saw DiBella, Frank Warren. We saw DiBella, Aaron, Ellaby jumps in. Steven Espinoza, now Sky are jumping in. And Eddie's swinging back. And a lot of people are not going to like his swings in retaliation. Because he realizes now, it doesn't matter. I'm in a cesspit. Whether I'm wrong or right, I'm in a cesspit. It's called boxing. And you have to swing. So it was wrong to throw shade on Sky's events. But he doesn't give a fuck no more. If they close down your event because of my words, why do I care? Oh, I threw some shade on Clarissa. Well, why do I care? Look what she fucking and her posse done to Mr. Bashir. And all the shit she said about me. Fuck them. Fuck Lou DiBella. Yeah, fuck Frank. And yeah, he's been wrong. He's done some wrong things in the last couple of weeks. Yes, he has. But all the promoters have. But he probably feels I'm getting more stick than they ever did. That's probably how he feels. That's his perception right now. And you're not going to change his mind. So right now, he's just going to swing on motherfuckers. He's going to swing on them. Before they swing on me, I'll swing on you. That's going to be the rules. But he did predict this for himself. He says, them promoters who have been in the game for 40, 50 years, they're all miserable. They're all miserable. And that's why he doesn't plan to stay in there that long. Well, I'm going to tell you this. It didn't take them 40 or 50 years to get miserable. They're saying he's avoiding interviews. Well, yes, that may change. He's been an open book so far. Talk to anybody. And he always says he doesn't make the interviewer beforehand doctor the questions to what he wants asked. Well, that may change. That may change. Like Simon Jordan was saying he was a coward because he won't go on TalkSport to answer questions. But Eddie knows what Simon Jordan is about. He's not going to go on certain outlets right now because the investigation is still ongoing. For a start, UCAD and the British Boxing Board of Control have an investigation ongoing. He's going to be selective on what kind of press he's going to do. Simon Jordan even said he was hiding in Australia even though he's got a card out there to promote. Jarvis versus Palo. And I know that off the top of the head. I've been on top of that for a few months. Dempsey McKean is on the undercard. What are you saying? He shouldn't go and do his work now? That's hiding? That's a bit unfair. I think that's just a little unfair. And I think Eddie is held to a different standard than Frank. There's certain questions that Simon Jordan won't ask Frank. Like Simon Jordan pretends that he's outraged by Fury taking on Derek Chisora. But he's not challenging Frank Warren about that. Not one bit. And if he does, it's like, yeah, I don't really like the fight, Frank. He's not aggressive with his body language or his vocal language or anything like that. But if it was Eddie, he'd be a bit more boisterous. He would. For some reason, they've got this fear of Frank. I don't know if it's the brick top thing. It might send Lenny around there getting legs broken and shit. I don't know what it is. But they treat Frank a little different than they do Eddie. Is what it is. And a lot of people have noticed it. Eddie had a bad week in terms of PR. Very bad week. In this game, especially in the social media era, right? The social media thing and like all the interviews and written statements they've got from you, framed, they're going to make you trip up on things you said in the past all the time. Like earlier, what Floyd said about Canelo fighting on Dazn and now he's fighting on there. They got Eddie this week. They got him. And don't expect to have the same bubbly Eddie Hearn. I think he's been stung hard this week. Very hard. And Ben Shalom, your time's coming soon as well. You're going to become the embittered promoter. A lot of Eddie's detractors are using the Chris Eubank Sr. diatribe. They're using these words against Eddie. When none of them complained about the catchweight. The only one that had a word to say about the catchweight, negative, was Frank Warren. In Frank's defense, was Frank Warren. The rest of them, they didn't have a problem with this fight. They didn't have a problem. And all Eubank Sr. has been talking about is the catchweight. He hasn't really thrown no shade on no one about the drug testing. Obviously, he's not happy about it, but he's not blaming Eddie for the drug testing. He's blaming Eddie for the catch weight limit. But these guys, they're using that to add to the fuel of the testing hysteria. They're using that. Like, oh, look what Eddie done with the catch weight and stuff. The only one who said, I don't like the catch weight was Frank Warren. Only one. The only one. Before Connorgate and Eubank Sr. was saying this was attempted murder, most of Eddie's detractors were ignoring Chris. They were ignoring Chris. But when Connor's test results came up, they threw everything at Eddie. Most people wanted this fight, regardless of the catch weight. And anyone who says they didn't, most of them are fucking lying. Alright? And who is Eubank really mad at? He can't be mad at Eddie for the catchweight. Junior's promoter is the Silence, Wasserman. So he must be mad at them. If Chris was coerced into taking the fight, which I don't believe he was, I think he made an informed decision as a grown man. But if he was coerced into taking this fight, it would have had to been the Wasserman, Sauerland connection that coerced him to take it, not Eddie. But you tell the Eddie Hearn detractor that. They won't have it. And in all truth, is Junior signing the papers? He's a 33-year-old man. One thing with Frank Warren, you can't tell him anything about the rule book according to the British Boxing Board of Control. Anything, nothing. Frank knows it better than they do. Yeah? And he was on the Hearns when Lee Purdy challenged Devin Alexander. When was that? 2012? I looked it up earlier. 2013. For the IBF welterweight title. And Purdy couldn't make the weight. And apparently Barry Hearn, who was the head honcho promoter for Matchroom before Eddie at that time, sat in the sauna with Lee Purdy trying to get the weight off. Purdy didn't make the weight, but the fight went ahead. Purdy paid a fine and the fight went ahead. He couldn't win the title, and if Devin won, it would go down as the first defense of the belt. Purdy was outclassed. Even if he made the weight, he would have never beat Devin, in all truth. Darren Barker pulled him out. And Eddie, who obviously didn't know the rulings like Frank Warren, went public and said that, yeah, my dad went in the sauna in the hothouse with Lee Purdy to take the weight off. And when the board found out about this, they were brought to task because they're not supposed to do that. They're not supposed to do that. In the UK, you cannot use sauna to make weight. You cannot. It's banned. It's prohibited by the British Boxing Board of Control. That's how John Real Casemiro lost his belt to Paul Butler. The WBO abided by the British Boxing Board of Control's ruling that you're forbidden to use a sauna to make weight. That's how he lost his belt. Now, on Casemiro's behalf, he's probably done this before. But this is why it's important to read up on the rulings on the countries that you're fighting in. Because how did they know? How did the British Boxing Board of Control find out? Somebody must have spoke about it in Casemiro's camp. And then the British Boxing Board of Control got wind of it, and that's it, belt gone. But you see, the same day weighing era, it wasn't uncommon for fighters to go in a sauna to cut weight. Amateurs or pros. When Ray Leonard won the Golden Gloves in 1973, Emmanuel Stewart and Dave Jacobs made a makeshift steam room, ran the hot water and put towels around Ray Leonard, and it created a steam room type of environment and made him shadow box. And he went and beat Hilmer Kenty. Kenty went on to become Emmanuel Stewart's first world champion at lightweight in the pros. Tell you what, that'd be the last time the Sauerlands get involved in putting any of their boxers in a catchweight match like that, especially if they're the party being disadvantaged. That'd be the last time they do it.